Hi, my name is Rebecca Ganger, and today I'm going to talk to you about data assessment within our school, particularly a look at our current assessments and the impact of starting a math pilot group utilizing Khan Academy within a group of sixth graders. Currently, our school uses a variety of assessments. They use AIMSweb between kindergarten and eighth grades for early literacy, reading fluency, reading comprehension, math concepts and applications, and math computation. For this particular tool, we will be referencing later the math computation portion of AIMSweb testing. We also utilize the ISAT. In reading and math, it's between 3rd and 8th grade, and science, it's for 4th and 7th graders. We also have a scholastic reading inventory, different classroom level assessments, algebra placement for 7th grade students to determine where they will be placed for 8th grade math, the Explore assessment, the Plan test, a college readiness assessment, which is by Discovery Assessments, and the PSAE. Here you can see a summary table of the different district assessments. You can see it's broken down by what the assessment is, the grade level that it's implemented in, the area covered, the source, and a description of that particular assessment. For AIMSweb, which is what we will be utilizing to gather the initial data, AIMSweb is a benchmark and progress monitoring system that is used by frequently assessing the students throughout the year. This is the rest of the summary table, talking about the other assessments that are used within the school. Who uses the data that is collected by the school? Well, board members use the data to determine planning of budgetary needs for the district. The superintendent uses it, curriculum director, RTI coordinator. Specifically, the RTI coordinator will use the data to determine appropriate groupings for interventions. Administrators, teachers, support staff, library media specialists might use student lexiles to figure out what books they should be pulling into the library to meet the needs of the students. The students can use their data to see their growth as well as the parents. How is the data used? It is used to evaluate the curriculum, to determine the effectiveness of different interventions. That is a specific place that I will be focusing in on to determine whether or not the Khan Academy intervention seemed to be effective. To evaluate gaps in achievement based on demographic groups, to determine students' mastery of skills and concepts, determine the quality of the instructional practices within the core subject areas, for special education evaluations, to appropriately place students in classes, and as I said earlier, for budgetary needs. The purpose of my tool is to evaluate the incorporation of the Khan Academy intervention into the final 6 weeks of the school year for a group of 6th grade students. Why did I feel that this was necessary? Before this program would be rolled out across the grade levels as a new RTI program, we need to determine the effectiveness of that program. Was there significant growth? Should it be started in all grades? And if we do implement this across the grade levels, we need to plan for appropriate computer lab space, or we need to determine if we need to purchase new computers such as Chromebooks if the program is kept. My tool that I used for the assessment process was an Excel spreadsheet. Tables were created to compare various things. First, I just wanted to look at the growth between the fall and winter benchmarks, and then the growth between the winter and spring benchmarks. I also particularly was interested in what percent of the growth or decline between each benchmark period was occurring, what the growth or decline was, and was there a particular increase when the students were involved in Khan Academy. Did that have a significant impact on their growth between the winter and spring benchmark? Here's one of the tables that I created. This was created in Excel. These are the student benchmark scores, just a quick comparison of all the students and where they landed for the fall, winter, and spring benchmarks. Here was one of the plots that I created just to measure what the particular, how many points of growth or decline they had in between their fall and winter. You'll notice student 7 did not have one data point, so I was unable to plot that. Here's the winter spring. How many points did they grow between their last benchmark? Here is a joint table. I chose to spread it out earlier so that it wasn't quite so cluttered, but here you can see the different growth that the students made. So student 1 had approximately a 7-point growth in between the fall and the winter, and then had approximately a 17-point growth on top of that between the winter and spring benchmarks. Here is my percent growth comparison chart. You can see how students, how much of a percentile they grew during their Khan Academy portion of the year. The light purple shade, which is the percent growth between winter spring benchmarks, that is referencing the time that they were part of the Khan Academy intervention group. After concluding all of my tables, I noticed that 9 of the 14 students, or 64% of the pilot group, had over 50% of their growth occurring between the winter and spring benchmark times, which was while they were enrolled in the Khan Academy program. Their average final benchmark score was slightly over 28, which fell within our school average when looking at an Ames-Webb scale. There was a significant growth that could be seen while the students were enrolled in the pilot program and the intervention program. I am going to show you now how I created the different tables. Here's my first table. As you can see, I just simply listed the students down the right-hand side. I had each of their fall, winter, and spring benchmark scores entered in the appropriate column. After I did that, I simply highlighted all of my data and I inserted a column chart. Very quick, very easy way to visually see some data. My next chart is where you can see, and let me see if I can adjust this a little bit. This next chart shows you the different forms that I created. I had students, in this case it was A, B, C, D, but the same for student 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I did how many points they grew between, or how many points they declined between the fall and the winter benchmark, and then between the winter and spring benchmark. This was just to plot some growth and to see where the students were falling. I manually did all of this information. Once again, in order to get the fall winter, I simply highlighted this information and then inserted a column chart. I just copied the winter spring to make it easy to create my next data table, but you could have also done a formula for that. Here is the chart where my true tool comes into play. This is a percentage to show the growth between particular benchmarks. I wanted to look at, of their total score, what percent of their growth, or maybe a decline, as you can see in Student 2 for this benchmark period, what percentage of their growth or decline happened while in the Khan Academy program. You can see that quite a few of these students, the majority of their growth occurred while they were enrolled in the Khan Academy program. Next, I'm going to show you simply a template that I created for this tool. Here I am in my template. I started just by putting my top column entries, what the information was going to be. For this, I started with Student 1. In order to continue the numbering, all I need to do is grab the bottom right-hand corner and pull this down as far as I needed to. We had 14 students that were part of the program, so I just went down to 14. Then I would have put their fall, winter, and spring benchmark scores in here. For Sheet 2, this is where all of the real data came in as far as my tool. What I did was create a formula up here. You can see it. A formula saying I wanted to take, on Sheet 1, I wanted to take column C2, subtract column B2, divide that by D2, and multiply that by 100 in order to get a percentage. I know that kind of sounds a little confusing. I will go back to the other sheet to talk you through this. What I wanted to do, as I said, was take column C2, whatever their score was, subtract their fall benchmark, or column B2, divide that based on their final score, their final benchmark score, so divided by D2, and multiply that by 100 in order to get their percentile. That would be for the fall-winter benchmark. For the winter-spring benchmarks, it was just a matter of changing which columns I was going to subtract from, so D2 minus C2 divided by D2 times 100. One other thing that I did was to just compare to find out what my average was. I put all of the student final benchmark scores into into this column, and then I went in to formulas and I did an auto sum on that, and then I just chose an average. That was in order for me to find out that their average score was over 28. A real quick, easy way to see what the students scored. Overall, I felt that it was necessary to do this comparison within the growth and the percentile in order to see if there was true growth within those students while they were involved in the RTI intervention group and the pilot of the Khan Academy program. I hope this helped some people to think about a different way to evaluate data within their schools. Thank you very much.